What's up, Shift Crew? Welcome to the live. Welcome to the replay. Today we're gonna go gangbusters. Today we're gonna bring it. Today we're gonna define what has yet to be defined in this spiritual quest that we all seem to find ourselves journeying on together. And we're gonna look at this question like, when is the shift? When is New Earth? When are you even happening? When does this begin? Where does it end? What are we waiting for? These are the things that we have to look at because we are not defining that. And that is part of the collective trauma that we have all been facing. Why aren't we comfortable with our power? Why aren't we confident about where we're headed up? And why aren't we declaring it often and immediately, right? We're stuck in what some would call a timeline, maybe even a false timeline, a dark timeline, a dense timeline. And today we're going to look at how do we get out of that? Why are we not getting out of that? Why are we so committed to a narrative that keeps everything the same, and yet we say to each other, we represent the next level. We represent change. How are we going to really bring it? So tap a 1 or a yes in the comments to let me know that you're here. I'm going to have Rowan join me. Hopefully she can click that button that says join and request. Here we go. If you're here just hopping on, please tap yes that you're here or tap a 1 in the comments because I want to know that the Shift Crew is alive, that they are participating in this conversation, that we are not asleep at the wheel, that we are the awakened people that we are looking for. And then we got Rowan live. Welcome, love. I'm glad you're here.
Well, too fucking bright.
Yeah. Yeah, you were, well, we never want to turn down our radiance. It's okay. Turn that radiance up. We are the people of the light. What are we doing?
I'm gonna blind you with your shit.
Yeah, so again, let everyone know you're here. Say hello, because hey, this isn't just about us. It's about us.
It's about us.
Yeah, it's about us. And we're here to really move some frequencies for you and to again call out these kind of parts of ourselves that are kind of operating in silence, operating in the mundane or just the day-to-day. And really, we are faced with quantum possibilities, limitless possibilities, the infinite. And yet we're approaching the infinite with a linear perspective or a linear plan. And I think that's the main thing that, you know, Rowan and I have been going forth on the phone a lot and really jamming into some things. And this live is based on an interaction we had the other day where it ignited in me as like this question of like, when, right? I mean, we can talk about astrology and yes, there's certain planets coming into play and certain places where the earth is maybe more aligned to say a galactic center. And there are certain alignments, just as your own physical body, which is a representation of the galaxy, also comes into alignment, and therefore intelligence and electricity flows. But at the same time, if we are masters of our own destiny, then we can choose when that alignment occurs. We can choose when this quote unquote ascension happens. And we can begin to define what that even looks like. So again, in my phone conversation with Rowan, I was just like, yo, this is the biggest thing that's not being said. Like there's a lot of the self-help part of this, which is necessary, a lot of the clearing, the healing, but we're not saying, what are we doing? Where are we going? And when are we getting there? And can that be once we're to a healed state or a cohesive state within us? Well, what's the blockage? What's the fear of arriving there now?
Well, and I want to start by saying too, I think one of the most compelling things about what you were describing is you said, okay, so were we going to like sell each other workshops and sessions and this is specifically speaking about the work that we do within this community of other like-minded people who have similar end games. And we're going to talk about some of what those end games are. But what are we just going to continue to kind of recycle abundance amongst ourselves and then live in our own little mansions? And then what, you know? So what you're talking about is making this conversation something that's really intentional and really conscious of, let's actually have the conversation. Instead of it sort of being this thing that's like just looming in the background, like, yeah, we all want community. Yeah, we're all kind of a part of this AI community. And it's like this knowing, I think, in a lot of us, like a lot of people are ready now. If they had the right, you know, and this is where we start to get into a lot of our limiting beliefs around this stuff, but people feel like if they had the right circumstances and the right people and the right time, that yeah, I mean, I even found myself getting really looped up in some limiting structures where I was talking to another one of my friends, Kate, and I said, yeah, you know, Kate, like within the next 10 years or so. And she goes, 10 years? She was like, what the hell is wrong with you? She's like, what reality are you living in?
Yeah.
So this is why we want to have these conversations right now, bring them out into the forefront. And like you said, to look at, where is our resistance to that? Let's dismantle this as a community, because one of the other things that you've been sharing with me that I think is so profound is not only are we really learning how to have relationships with people at a one-on-one level, but we're going to have to go into these community bodies. Like, it's like all this individuated work that we've been doing is, I hope, building up to us being able to take that coherence that we've created at an individual level and build that into a cohesive organism that is the community, so that we can start to have some of these healing experiences for a lot of the resistance and the weird gunk and stuff that comes up as a group. Like, let's like do this damn thing. Okay, so I'll pass it back over to you.
No, I mean, God, I should have wrote down. I've been getting like all sorts of hits on what you're saying. I think that first thing was, why do we say things 10 years from now? Why do we say that? I think one part of the answer is we have an understanding of this thing called critical mass. And I was doing this, you know, that's like biological, like that's really like physical 3D stuff. Like, I researched how much of a percentage of a population or of a group is required to have critical mass or to have that kind of paradigm shift happen. And it turns out recent studies show that to be around 25% of a group or a nation has to have a critical shift in order for everyone else to be like, oh, okay, this is what we do now. This is also a conversation about leadership, how everyone is in a leadership position, and that leadership is actually inner work, that the inner work counts for a lot. Because in like Power versus Force by David Hawkins, when you raise your vibration, you actually, in this particular density right now, become greater than a single individual. So if you go higher up in that scale and vibration, if we call it that, you can end up having call it the voting rights or the influence of, say, 100,000 people. If you're really going in and doing that dismantling work and getting grounded. Yeah, I know, it's kind of nice. It's kind of an incentive to do the inner work, because yeah, you have more voting rights over how reality is aligned to this new timeline that we're talking about.
So what you're saying is, it's a quantum, we can start to fuck with these laws a little bit, right? Like you said, okay, critical mass. Yeah. So if we have to reach a certain critical mass, well, if you start to play with the energetics of that a little bit in what you described, well, how much voting right, or how much kind of a tipping does the energy of really, like, just bigger energies have?
Yeah.
And then we can start to dismantle maybe some of these older, it's like, is that really true? Is there something else that can be happening instead?
Well, right now, you and me and everybody in this conversation right now is that tipping point.
Yep.
We are literally bristling with energy, and we're sending out the vibration of this conversation, the awareness of this conversation, which has never really happened before. right? We're clearing a path live on this call. And that path is connected to all of humanity. That's the potency we need to start walking and talking and being in right now, not tomorrow. It's happening on this call. That's how badass this live is going to happen. Okay. That's how no more waiting we're doing on this call. Boom.
Yep.
And for everybody listening, like, you've got a question, why are you thinking it's happening tomorrow? And I think the tomorrow narrative plays to the benefit of the system right now. It plays to the benefit of the, call it the current paradigm or the parasite. It plays to that benefit of you not understanding your own potency. And when you really shed all the games, the reindeer games that you're currently enrolled in, and you align to new choice, well, we're talking about liberating our DNA from a timeline.
Yeah.
And you are that DNA. The DNA that's waiting to be liberated is right inside your body. And that is your full-time job. That's your real job. If you've been looking for employment, you've already been hired. So again, let's break down this concept. Why the waiting?
Yeah.
Where have like, anybody can comment too. Where have you believed that it's happening later? Like, some people, astrologers, would be like, oh, the real Aquarian age isn't happening till like 2040. And so now we're in some astrologers would say we're in the dawn before the dawn.
Yeah. Or I've seen, this was just my own perception, but within some like of these kind of galactic communities, we're in the individuation phase right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is where we really individuate hardcore, and then, but it's like, but who decided that? Right. And I don't know if that's really, is that the narrative that I want? And this kind of playfulness where we get to decide what narrative we're in. See, Joanna said, are we talking about leaving the matrix, taking sovereignty back? Yeah, we're talking about, this is how I interpret it. Maybe this is you can explain it differently, Wes, but
yeah,
for me, what this means is literally, like, right now, having the actual conversations where we come together and talk about what is the end goal for us. And those of us who feel like we have a similar end goal, I think one of the main things, I mean, Wes got a couple different answers on the question that he asked, but I think the theme kind of across the board was people want to grow their own food. They want collective communities. They want people who feel passionate about what they're doing, that's giving back. Yeah, it's leaving the matrix in a community like form. And where, like, I guess this is just my really basic understanding, but it's like, let's fucking get our teams, let's get these people together, let's start having these meetings where we decide, okay, so our goal, our collective goal, what are we moving towards? And how do we really actually consciously start moving towards this as a group, as people?
Mm-hmm. And to understand that, again, I say this a lot, we're not here to make a better world. We're here to make new world, or new worlds even. Because this is also part of the conversation that we're escaping from. When you escape from the matrix, you escape from the thing that's been sold to us, that there's only one objective reality, and that objective reality has to be protected. You've got to have laws in it. Everyone's got to be safe in it. And this manipulation is actually a prison. That's the prison. That's the trick of the prison, that there's only one reality. And it turns out there's infinite realities. We actually, as far as New Earth goes, we don't all have to arrive on the same New Earth. We get to arrive at choice. And choice is liberation. You know, being free to choose is liberation itself. And so again, we're coming into the understanding that we are beings who focuses our lens of awareness and create a reality, or arrive at a dimensional reality, because of that shift in focus. And so there are many realities, there's many dimensions, and we're free to explore. That's the whole point of how we first connected, is in this, like, hey, we're actually coming out of this dualistic system, and some would say coming into a trine system or an open system,
Yeah.
where we are free to explore. And what are we really exploring? Well, actually, we're exploring our self. We're exploring the infinite self that does anything and everything it desires in any and all forms. And that's part of the healing, actually, is that when we arrive at quote unquote new earth, your human form can also shift its shape to match the new environment that you're going towards. So that's some real diversity that we haven't even talked about. Like, you are the alien race, you know, like, and you will transform into whatever you need to adapt to be in this other dimension, because that's what your DNA offers you. That's what DNA does. That's what the essence of real epigenetics at a galactic level does. It's fast acting traction that transforms. So we have to look at, again, the timeline, the false timeline narrative, and then also the skills and the abilities and the awarenesses necessary to shift.
So that's that and the resistance piece, which we were starting to touch on, is where within, like, even just the people who are here right now, do you feel your limitation around this? I saw one person even, let me see if I can pull this back up.
Yeah, there's great comments. I love people diving in.
I can't actually read that right now because my screen's being weird. Can you read the one from Golden Activations? Oh wait, okay, Costa Rica. Personally, waiting for clarity for the place, but ready to flow money into it. Okay, so for that, for you, it's the clarity of the actual specific location.
Yeah.
That's forming a piece of resistance. I can feel into, for myself, it's just a belief that, well, because I've been trying to do it alone.
Yeah.
So I have this belief that, well, I have to have the people that I'm going to do it with. And so because I don't have all the specific people yet, then I haven't been able to gather all of our resources to be able to, you know, then everything else that comes after that. So for me, the first step is getting that part out of the way, like actually having the people and not being, I think what's important, especially when we talk about community stuff, is, at least for me, is not being attached to, these are the set people. I now have my 14 tribal members and this is how, like, that's not going to flow that way. We're going to have people, when we start forming these communities, who maybe are there for part of the process. Then we realize, actually that person had a different path and they needed to go somewhere else, and then someone else comes in. So this kind of ebb and flow, but at least kind of a core group where we seem to have the same vision. What can you sense for, like, resistance? And
well, I was just I'll add to that, is that we are magic, and we have to stop fucking around and pretending that we're not. That's how this whole entire existence is existing in the first place. Tap into that, feel your resistance about that. Okay, because until you recognize that we're magic, you're going to be stuck in a linear program of trauma.
Yep.
So when we shift, and you're talking about the group of people, there are other beings, other humans, who will arrive only when you're ready. There are new circumstances that will arrive only when you've done this. And so we, again, have to shift out of the static, linear, material path of, well, first I got to get some land, and then I got to get a generator. And then, I don't know what I was saying to you. I think I was saying to you after we had a call about community, I was like, because often the narrative is, well, there's no more land to buy, or every country is run by a government. I'm like, yo, that's a narrative.
Oh yeah,
that is true in a particular.
Like, you're like, we're gonna find some place that they've never even.
Yeah.
We actually forgot about this one place on the map that nobody knew about, which is a totally fucking quantum shift. Yeah.
Right. There's quantum caches of liberation loaded all over this place. And as we, again, liberate ourselves, again, trying to create a better world, which means taking things as they hand it to you. They gave you an equation and you're chewing on the equation. Holy shit, you don't have to chew on the equation. That's the liberating moment of like, wait a second, there is no homework. I'm not actually even in school. Wait a second, first I thought I was in school and then there was homework. Turns out there's no homework and I'm not even in fucking school. Holy shit, that's liberation.
Yeah.
That, you catch that, then you're like, now I'm available. Now I'm available to the infinite. When I'm no longer chewing on the system's problems that sustain it. When I chew on the system's problems, I sustain it. And yeah.
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, also highlight how important what it is that you're saying is, because it could be missed. It could be easily glossed over, easily missed. This is the point, really, what you just said of this whole live.
Yeah.
Which is to really begin to shift our own internal relationship with the world, with ourselves, and shift it so much so that a lot of what we saw as problems that needed to be solved are actually solved by arriving at that place first from within ourselves.
Yeah.
And that we will be met with the opportunities, the people, the circumstances that align with that. And I think for some people that can seem abstract, or that can seem like, oh, like, you know, but the 3D is real, and like they're, you know, how do I get out of this?
Mm-hmm,
and it's that own resistance, right? That part of us that kind of still holds on to that, because of course the 3D is real. Of course we have to fucking move logs to build a house. That's real.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about is the energetics that come before that as the foundation for us to even move into it. Because what you're describing is that we're trying so hard to get to this place of where we're finally ready and we can finally do the community thing. But it's coming from a place of the old ways of how we've operated and thought about things. And so that whole thing has to be dissolved, stripped out, a literal shift totally in the energetics. And then what we're even talking about is not going to be so just kind of abstract. It's really an embodied, balanced harmonics. And it's from there that we create.
Yeah. You've got to go out to the 20,000 foot view, which is different brainwave patterns that you can achieve in meditative states, but also understanding we've got to re-educate ourselves on the mechanic of how existence exists, right? There is this is a process in itself. And I love that you also said, like, we're in the individuation stage and we are moving from that to the collective stage, that is Piscean era to Aquarius. So I would say for myself, you know, some of the last steps that you can practice, like you walk out into the world, and when you practice duality, then you have a world that's working against you. Rather than understanding, and this is coming from the Tibetan Buddhist practice of non-duality, is that when you walk out into the world, what you're seeing is yourself. And how much you take an inventory, how much are you in rejection of that world, and how much are you in acceptance of that world? And acceptance doesn't mean, well, this is the way it is and this is the way it's always going to be. But when you're in personal resistance to the world as it is, then you overlook one important fact. And that one important fact is the world works. It may be producing something that's not at optimum in our civilization, but the process works. The process is the process, and Source doesn't judge the process. The process can get you fucked up worlds of incarceration, or the process can get you worlds of liberation. And so when we look out into our world, we see our world is a good world. We see our world is functioning. We see that the magic has been used to create a dimensional realm where we believe magic doesn't exist. And yet everything hinges upon this power of creation to create a realm in which we ignore the power of creation itself. So it is that first step that this shit is working. It's just producing a very, very fucked up thing where we pretend it's not working. So we're honoring the mechanics. And then we're looking out in the world and we see someone else and we understand, here's a very practical thing that I've been practicing, becoming that point of unity. We walk out into a street and we see a person walking towards us and we always have a feeling. We may have a judgment, we may have a category, and that's okay, that's the point. The point is to awaken to the sensation of that judgment, that categorization of the other, and bring it home, because it has a feeling in your body. And yet you've been thinking it's outside of you, but that feeling, that sensation is inside of your body, and you've been disowning that sensation. So unity is an actual practice of sensation inclusion, right? Non-judgment sensation inclusion. I walk down the street, I see somebody, I have a feeling or a judgment or categorization, and I bring it home. And I said, there's the next thing to love within myself. And the world is no longer my enemy. The world, my current world, which is a dimensional output of my orientation, is ready for me to enfold it into my arms, into my heart, into my body, and to be like, everything's safe here. This world is actually a functioning world. It's a safe world, and I'm loving it by bringing it home. And once we go to that level of reality ownership, that means taking 1000% responsibility for the projected phenomena, because you are living in projected phenomena right now through the lens of your power. Your power is funneling through a lens that creates a world, and that is your world. And right now we're living in individualistic worlds. So our first task is to be a point of unity, that all loving embrace. And that doesn't mean, of course, not accepting toxic behavior, dangerous situations, but again, bringing home, if a dangerous situation is in your proximity, you find where you're disowning it, right? Because there's nothing judged by source. All activity is possible. So we're just bringing it home, owning it. And then actually by owning it, now we don't have external aspects of ourselves that are acting up and going crazy, because we're making a home for ourselves. We're making the world our home in love again. And this is a simple yet most dramatic thing that we actually have to do on the path. This is the practicality of this, again, moving from the individual state, proving that we can actually practice unity by being an example of it first. And then after that, that's when the magic begins, the secret doorways open to find the other people, like everybody on this call, who are also practicing that level of unity. And then again, we're moving into those new possibilities.
Yes. And none of what you're describing is bypassing, right? It's the upgraded version of what do we do once we are able to move ourselves into the observer, where we can observe the polarity. And then what do we do with that? We're not skipping over the polarity. We're becoming masters of duality and playing with those energies instead of being played by them. Without saying too much more about that, because I want to come back to the community thing, because because of the conversations that we've been having, right? We've talked about even co-creating something around this collapsing out of the enemy, and moving into the next stage beyond some of the paradigms that we've seen within a lot of these communities and within ourselves as really important stages of evolution. But so,
and I'm just looking at people's comments. I really want to say, there was a couple in there, and I really want to recognize, people's resistances, because I think that's a really key thing here. If you had any resistance to what we've been laying out just in the past 10 minutes, or again, that I think also, someone wrote something here, I want to really name who that was, about finances. Kristen, you were saying, I feel resistance on having the financial means to exit my life as it is into the new way of being. Let's take a look at that. I mean, Rowan, chime in on that as well. Like, again, when we're this is kind of deep too, because we have to examine, where are we playing with the energetics of the system's money? And again, it's you. So when we're stuck in this catch-22 of, yes, we require funds, we require the gathering of materials and each other. But when we use the system's money, and this is a transition that we find ourselves in, and this is an interesting question, you know, with the rise of cryptocurrency as well, this is part of it. But on the magic aspect of it, on the metaphysical aspect of it, money is currency, right? So when we use the dollar, we're actually using the vibrational currency of the system. What do you think that comes with? It comes with taxation, literal and metaphoric and energetic. So when we're talking about gathering funds, you're also talking about gathering currency from the predator to build a new world. And the awakening that we have to come into is that each of us is a financial system. Each of us runs our own currency, runs our own vibration, which means runs our own money system. And crypto is catching up to prove that eventually each one of us will have our own quote unquote dollar in cryptocurrency. But first, we have to live that energetically as sovereign beings of magic. So currency and money, look at that connection there. Are you really going to take the beast's currency, which is a certain electrical charge, and run that charge through your body to create a new reality? Or will you recognize your sovereignty to run your own charge, to learn how to connect yourself to the heavens and the earth with your heart as a center, and run your currency, which again is defining.
And to do that, I mean, because what you're speaking to is definitely on a higher level, right? So I hope people can hear that.
Because Rowan, if we don't go for the higher level, you're going to stay at the lower level, and that's the point.
And then it's a loop, and then it's a hula hoop.
I mean, and so that's when we expose again the first question, which is when, what is it, where are we headed, what does it look like?
Yeah.
Which is tools and techniques, and when are you going to do it?
Yeah, I think about this too, kind of on a practical sense, like with people with this money stuff, because I know several people who feel like they have one foot in the matrix and one foot out, as far as not everyone is at the place where they work for themselves yet. And so people really wanting to take that step, but like, let's say still working in a hospital or still working, whatever, doing something they don't want to do. So once we start to break down these very like individualized things, so what's your relationship like with scarcity, fear, survival, powerlessness, any kind of belief systems around like, I can only make this much money. I've seen that within sex workers, and I saw that within myself when I was in that industry. Reasons why people don't leave, like reasons why people don't leave any job that they feel like is making them more money than they could make. It's like the learned, one of the programs or belief systems I've seen it within a lot of humans is to make a lot of money, I have to suffer and I have to compromise some part of myself. It has to be painful. Some part of it has to be painful. And it has to be work, and it has to be hard. And so we have to clear out also a lot of these conditioned systems, even stuff around like, because we come from, and really we're kind of saturated in poverty consciousness, there is almost a guilt within people for this, like, who are you to be wealthy, to take back your wealth and operate in the world that way? What, you know, people are really actually afraid of what would come with that. What is, or they don't even have a freaking concept of like, what does that mean to be safe and secure, because the being already doesn't really feel safe and secure just moving through the world in general. And so then that gets layered into finances and all these other things. So it is individual, and we have to go in and really start to distinguish from this place of observation, because we're not getting wrapped up in the emotional kind of tendrils of it. Important to move through some of that stuff, but what I'm saying is eventually coming back to that place of observation. How much of this is really true? How much of this is conditioned? I want to give you guys an example of something that came through. It was an image that came through today when I was working with someone, and it was around ancestral scarcity and stuff like that. So the image I got was of a man long ago in this person's lineage who has, so bizarre, but like 5 acorns on the ground. And there were a lot of other people vying for those acorns. And so they were really focused on them because I only have 5 and there's really a lot of competition for them. And so the focus is, right, it's on the acorns. It's on how I'm afraid that I'm going to lose this. Now, if you were to look away from that pile of acorns, and there's other people who are vying for that, right? This is the scarcity mindset. This is how this program is built. You don't want to look away from what you're about to lose, because then somebody could come and take it. So you stay really focused on those 5 acorns. But then what happens is that, let's say generation later, let's say 3-4 generations later, is you or I or somebody who's on this call, right? And you actually have 1,000 acorns. You have 1,000,000 acorns. You have as many fucking acorns as you could ever want and need. But there's still a loop there where you're still focusing on the acorn, like that pile of acorns. Is it enough? The body, it's like the organism hasn't quite caught up with the present moment and hasn't, like, once we clear that, we get to really arrive here. And in this moment, none of that is happening. In this moment, you don't have just 5, and no one is coming to get them, and no one is coming to steal them from you. In fact, they're coming out of your ears. You have more than you could ever need. And this isn't to say, like, somebody who has $5, like, for me to lie to them or something and say, you don't have only $5. You have, that's what I'm talking about. It's a mindset of moving away from hyper focusing on the actual thing itself, because that is a loop that has all kind of weird stuff coming off of it. To help the body come back to safety and go, wait, that has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with this present moment. That has nothing to do with what I'm even bringing into the world or doing or anything.
Well, I mean, it's funny how beautiful points, and I'm glad we're bringing up this, because I know this is one of the big topics, the resistance that's going on for people, which is money also as wealth, as a display or an orientation to your power. This is really what the conversation really is power through all its different manifestations and aspects. And I was going to say, a lot of times people are like, well, where is, because I was laying down some heavy, big stuff about the spiritual, but where is the spiritual, right? Well, we have to look at the physical. The physical is the manifestation of the spirit. And so we're surrounded by the proof of wealth. We've been trained to define wealth as, just say on a basic level, dollars in your bank account that then equals houses or cars or vacation or clothes. But what is real wealth? The real wealth is the wealth that has generated the entire cosmos, the entire universe. And that wealth comes from generosity. So we look around our world and we find proof of generosity everywhere we look. From every atomic particle in existence is founded and given through generosity. So we are living in the proof of generosity and have access, infinite access to that generosity in which to wield our power into new forms, into new realities. That's the funding that you've been looking for. And the proof is all around you. What did this cost to create the universe? Nothing at all. It came out of desire, expansion, intelligence. And on a side note, it's our sacred duty to be creators within this realm of the infinite, in which to generate new dimensions of experience that nourishes that one being. That's our sacred duty. And that whole experience is founded in infinite generosity. And again, the proof, you're dripping with proof, and everything costs nothing, right? And so the system that we're leaving is a system based in scarcity. Mm-hmm. That's how we've been trained to value things, is through the system of scarcity. Those 5 acorns. Oh, these are really important. These are the only 5 acorns on the planet, and I will sell them to you for $20 million a piece. We do that with gold. We do that with diamonds. We do that with even certain cryptocurrencies. There's only 20 million of this coin, and that's why the value of that coin will rise over time, because there's only 20 million coins, and it costs more every time they get bought and sold. So we operate, our current economy is based on scarcity in an infinite universe. And that's part of our shift that we have to take a look at. Where are we playing into scarcity as a reason to stay small or play on their terms?
Yeah, that's probably one of the huge other pieces of resistance of the, I don't know how many people responded on my thing, but like one of the questions I asked, the yes or no question, it said, how many of you are ready to like gather and really have these conversations and start movement?
Right.
And only 2% said no. So at least those 2 people were honest with themselves about like, I'm actually not ready to have these fucking conversations. The rest of everybody else, that's not a point of resistance for you.
Right.
So then it's just what is, and can we clear that so that collectively, individually, so that we can really do this? I feel like there was more though that you had to say about like some of the answers that you got from people. And
well, yeah, I was going to drop into some of the answers, because again, the topic being where are we headed as this spiritual adventure, and when does it happen, right? And ending the vagueness about that, because no business would ever survive if A, it didn't know what it was doing, and B, it knew when it was going to get there. That you can't run a business like that. You can't run an adventure. You can't run an experience in vagary, right? So vagary. So where do we have resistance to being vague? And this is coming out of that fear of being a slave species or a traumatized species that says, oh, when I rise up and declare we're going over here, I get killed. I get shut down. I meet oppression. I meet oppressive forces. I meet resistance. That is where some of the major healing has to happen in your DNA, because that, be it your current DNA or your ancestral DNA, again, will freeze you to that timeline. And your DNA is actually part of your multidimensional mechanism. But if the DNA is locked into a belief structure that then generates you the paradigm, well, you're going to stay there. So the work is to be gentle on yourself and to clear where you're frozen in fear around the topics of power. So part of people's answers that they gave to us about, what does it look like when we quote unquote arrive to maybe a new earth situation or the next level, the destination. Phoenix was saying, being at peace with myself and who I am in this moment. Mueller was saying, carving the way, activating full memory, light body, Merkaba, travel. Amane was saying, sovereign micronations, tribal revival, rooted in the earth as stewards, creating a new way. Trinity Holistic Hypnosis was saying, liberation from the mental matrix prison system. Noviembre was saying, paradise. truth experiment was saying being present and joyful, to stay on task, to build a space upon our land, to heal and connect. And then drawn by a fan was saying her goal is to, or their goal is to go to heaven and then work on their trauma and to be like Christ to get there. So that's an interesting thing that in that one there. But you know, that is a next step. We have to define what is a next step and examine, as we've been discovering in this conversation, examine where we're holding onto the system's version of mechanics and money on how to get there. Like if we know intuitively that the next level has nothing to do with the predator or the system, then we also have to exfoliate from our magic, from our toolkit, their version of how to do things, and then thus enter into the quantum, liberate our DNA, clean our DNA, and enter into the quantum states where we are accessing these infinite possibilities, these higher vibration timelines, and then orienting ourselves there. So again, it's the jump. We're taking the leap. We're taking the jump. We're doing quantum jumping here. And we're normalizing that as actually, that's our true mechanics. That's not extra mechanics. That's not mechanics that you'll get in the future. You're doing it right now. You're doing it right now. That's how this works. You're already working. There is no new power coming to you. That's the trick. There is no evolution. You're already evolved. You're so evolved that, and this is a long story, through the hijacking or the distortion field, your high evolution got manipulated to create a realm in which you don't know you're the most evolved thing ever arrive.
It's very empowering, right? It's
yeah, right.
Empowering lens and shift of way of being with these things and these concepts. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it just needs, I'll hit it home again. You're not waiting to evolve. Because if you're playing the waiting game, well, that's what you're going to get.
More waiting, more opportunities to wait and just wait and wait and wait and wait. And what are we waiting for? Who are we waiting for?
And who benefits by you waiting? The system that sucks you dry. The system that taxes you.
Let me just get a couple more years of sucking this one dry before I let it.
Right. And that's where we're taking 1000% responsibility for the conditions we find ourselves within. That is sovereignty. That is a responsible creator of dimensional realities. The one who wakes up, again, through that practical that I was giving earlier about the one who walks out into the world and says, where am I responsible?
Yeah.
Where am I responsible for the co-creation of this?
Yep.
Not just in my personal actions, but also like really going in and going like, wow, I'm responsible for buying into their grid. I'm responsible for rejecting certain aspects of humanity as other. And yet we're sitting in this example of infinite power and infinite generation,
which I
and generosity. We're sitting in the example and we're looking at it going like, God, if I only had more power. You're the fucking power. You are the power.
I hope people really like marinate in this because it's very juicy. Like the frequency of this is very abundant. It's very juicy to look at the proof, right? Because we're conditioned even in coming out of limitation to then continue to look at the proof of limitation that we were once trapped in. Instead of, like you said, well, there is mechanics, it's functioning. Look how it's functioning, and look at how you were a part of helping it to function and create what currently is. You already did that. You didn't even have to try.
Yeah.
Imagine what more proof we can find and continue to birth if we really were conscious of what it is that we're creating.
Exactly. And I want to answer, well, I want to lay down this, again, sometimes it's a responsibility to make sure people are really ready to hear the answers that we're giving. And so I really recognize, like, we're here to stir up the shit compassionately, you know, inside of you, to question the static narrative. But hopefully we're doing it in a way that is non-harmful. But I'm also telling you that once you get through the trauma, you're the powerful person you've been waiting for. You got this. You're already healed. You're already good. You're just playing, or we're all just playing a game where we're not good, you know? So that's part of the path, you know, that's part of the truth about spirituality. You are not in a crisis. The truth of you is before all projection, before all phenomena. The truth of you is before all this. And so where are you taking your power to then experience the phenomena of powerlessness? And that's the oxymoron, is that you have to be powerful in order to create a powerless dimension of phenomena. It's you, the mechanics. The mechanics are working, and you get the movie that you buy, you know? And I want to answer this question. Does it want to wait, can I say this thing about power? Do they want to hear this thing about power? I'll lay this out, and this is deep, and it takes training, and this is what we're gonna, you know, Rowan and I are gonna lay out some new training programs soon about this. But when you practice real unity, not just I love everybody, but when you witness that there is no separation between you and the phenomena you're experiencing, okay, get this. If there is, and there isn't, any separation between you and the phenomena you're experiencing, then real unity is the fact that you are you and the world at the same time. So that's very powerful, because you're like, you mean I'm that mountain? You mean I'm that forest? You mean I'm all those people? Am I all those people? And when you begin to tap into that, you're like, yo, I am all these people. I am that powerful that I actually have generated an entire planet. This is deep, and people aren't really ready for this. And then you look at the stars at night, and you're like, if I can perceive those stars, then those stars are a part of my perception, my awareness, and my projection. They're coming from you. When you look up, the stars are coming from you. Place yourself not as an externalized object, but place yourself at the center of the experience, of the phenomena you're experiencing, and realize it comes from you. And you're like, well, if I'm generating planets, our sun, our solar system, and stars, that's how potent I really am. And that's not to get like a megamaniac. How do you say it? Megamaniac?
Megamania.
Yeah, like megamania. It's to be like, whoa, we've never been told this. We've been told that humans are weak and pathetic and filled with all sorts of social problems. You're like, no, we generate solar systems. We generate cosmoses. We are the designer and the generators of whole cosmoses. So who are you to play so small? That's the trick.
Yeah.
And to take that understanding of how creation is created or phenomena is generated and realize, okay, I'm no longer going to generate a realm in which I'm victimized or powerless, and recognize that I was taking my power to generate victimization and powerlessness, to feed whole system. And I will remove myself from these ideas and bring home whatever rejected parts of myself that was playing into that, to create real unity within my body. And then, wow, wait a second, I'm free to go. I'm free to explore.
And this is why it has to be a spiritual, non-physical, energetic conversation.
Yeah.
Because it is that which we cannot maybe see that's informing what we can see. and the actual physical logs and building blocks of the physical 3D world, is it really all starts with that, everything that you just named. And I can just say that there's some people in here that I can feel who this is hitting them in a way that maybe they haven't felt before. So I just appreciate your way of kind of weaving this eloquent verbiage that is really just a frequency, or it's holding a specific tone that you've already brought through your body, and then using those words to bring that tone into the space. And then through the airwaves, people are getting little hits to their, oh, my heart feels like it's waking up. I can feel some of my power coming back. I feel like maybe shit is possible, right? People are, I can see it in the fields, like little lighting up a little bit. This is good, right? Because conversations that are focused in resistance and that are all about that other whole thing doesn't have this quality to it, right? So pay attention to what it is that really lights you up, that really does remind you and bring you back into that center within yourself, that is that powerful creator of entire worlds, because that is it. And that's what we're really utilizing to build.
Yeah. Again, honoring, just what Rowan said, and that this is shifting stagnant parts of your DNA. It's going to bring up maybe trauma for you, but that is good. Hard, but good, because that's the iceberg. That's like part of your DNA is frozen in an iceberg, and it's meant to get recoded. And really what we're going through is this, again, kind of going back to the when is it happening? Well, we're doing it right now. And that this is a field of energy that we're generating together of, okay, no matter how long it takes, we're dedicating ourselves to this new paradigm of empowerment and finding our way, getting our way in there. And that's the compassionate part. It's like, hey, you don't go into a gym and lift 500 pounds, but 500 pounds, if you're that big enough to do that, is on the way, right? So we're going to work together, all of us, right? Because we're family, and this is our mission together. We're not leaving anyone behind who doesn't want to be left behind. We're going to work this out. This is the beginning of this conversation. This is the beginning of the techniques and the insights and the understandings, the fundamentals that make this more practical than living in the quote unquote practicality of the system's currency or the system's energetic field, which is a quantum entanglement. And we are free to create our own quantum entanglements based in different vibrations or higher vibrations, anywhere and everywhere in any amount. I just got the 2-minute warning, so they're cutting us off in an hour. Any last words?
Go! 120 seconds. I don't know that I have any last words to add, other than I feel this impulse within myself to do something like an action step after this. Like I feel compelled to gather in probably virtual spaces first, because many of us are scattered. And to do that work, to begin gathering and kind of sifting through tribe vibes and who's where and what are we building, and really open that conversation up with each other.
That's definitely gonna happen. Like I said, I think Rowan and I, by the way, Rowan, I basically have signed you up. We're gonna work on stuff. We have, basically what I'm trying to announce is that there is going to be a training on this, and we're going to do that all together. So just to let you know, we're not leaving you hanging. This is the beginning. It's the beginning of the end, which is the beginning of it all. So, and I'm really thankful for everybody who arrived on this live, and please share it with some friends. I'm going to put it up for replay, and 25 seconds left. I love all of you. And this is what we came here to do. This is really us taking
You.
charge of the timeline. Yo, we're all awakening to the fact that we get to decide the timeline, not have the timeline handed to us.
Ooh, ooh.
Woohoo! All right, loves. We'll see you soon.
Bye.